Hello, my name is Mary Morton, and I am going to be going through the procedures that I would use in order to teach a small group lesson in English language arts. I am a special education teacher, and I currently work with students who are on the AAA pathway to earn their diploma. So I will be using the Alabama Extended Standards goals. However, there are circumstances where a teacher or even myself might work with students who have an IEP but are in the general education classroom or have 504 plans, and in some cases there may be even students who are general ed that just need some extra help. Okay, so my lesson will be based on language arts, and I will be focusing on subject-verb agreement, which comes from the English Language Alabama Alternate Standards 9.36b. My target group would probably be more than likely a small group, say 6 to 8 students, maybe a little bit less, but certainly no more. I would write our goal either on a whiteboard or put it in a PowerPoint and bring it to the students' attention that we are talking about subject-verb agreement is our ultimate goal, and have the students write it and read it and just kind of briefly discuss this. And I would let the students know that this is very important, not only because it's part of the Alabama Extended Standards, but also it's important in our writing and in our daily speech. And so this way the students would know. As far as accommodations, I do like to use PowerPoint. I like for each student to have their own personal Chromebook that they can work from. Some of the students have problems writing, may feel more comfortable typing their answers, and they can also read what I put on PowerPoint in some cases on their Chromebooks. So it does help in several ways. So whenever I start a new lesson, I like to start off with a review, and I will briefly go over some prerequisite skills that the students need to go forward to learn the new skill that I am teaching them. So in this case, I would talk about sentences, complete sentences, and how a complete sentence needs both a subject and a predicate. And a subject is going to include I would talk about the complete subject, and then I would talk about simple subject would be a noun. And the same thing with the predicate would be a verb. So I would talk to the students about what is a noun, what is a verb, what is the definition. I would call them volunteers to tell me if they remembered. If they didn't, I would simply go over it with them using PowerPoint and maybe the board and smartboard, and verbally just tell them. And then we would practice together identifying nouns and verbs in isolation as well as in sentences. And then from there, we would talk about singular and plural, the difference, meaning singular is one, and plural is two or more than one. And this is the case with both nouns and verbs. So I'd make sure the students really had a good understanding of that before we proceeded, because all of these things are very important, and one skill builds on another. Okay, so once I knew that they had a good understanding of that, then I would go ahead and introduce the new material that I was teaching them. And I would definitely use possibly a PowerPoint. And you may not can see it. I'm going to turn the camera around. I have got a PowerPoint on subject and verb agreement. And we would talk about that we were trying to avoid run-on sentences and fragments. Okay, a little bit of difficulty here. Okay, so I would introduce it. I would show them the PowerPoint and show them that we have rules that we have to go by. And the basic rule would be that singular subjects need singular verbs, plural subjects need plural verbs. I would give them a couple of examples like this on here. My brother is a nutritionist, period. And the first thing I would say, let's find our verb, which in this case is underlined, is. Then we're going to ask ourselves, who or what is? Brother is. So brother would be our subject, and is would be our part of our predicate. All right, since brother is singular, it's going to need a singular verb, which is a singular verb. So that sentence would be correct. In the second sentence, my sisters are teachers, we're going to find our verb, which is are. We're going to ask ourselves, who or what are? Sisters are. Sister is plural, so sister would need a singular, sisters is plural, so sisters would take a plural verb, which we can see that on the sentence. Okay, and at this point I would remind the students that a big trick in knowing this is recognizing that the singular and plural. Singular subjects, the verb stem in S, such as it fits, he sits. Plural subjects, the verb stems without an S, such as they fit, they sit. Okay, and then we would go to our next part, which gives us a list of pronouns that the students would need to remember. In the meantime, I would give them a sheet to look at to help guide them until they learn it. It's pronouns such as each, either, neither, one, everyone, and no one, anyone, anybody, someone. They are singular and they require a verb with the S ending. Okay, and then from there we would go to our next rule. And know that the trick is in knowing whether the subject is singular or plural. Verbs do not form their plurals by adding an S, but nouns do. And that's where it gets a little tricky, and I would bring that up to the students' attention. Okay, so from here, after our introduction, I would go on to what I call guided practice, which I would give the students some sentences. And in the sentences, I would do a few of them with them. We'd do them as a group, and I would guide them. An example would be, Billy wants to buy a new skateboard. Okay, Billy is our subject and he is singular, so we're going to need a singular verb, which is wants. Billy wants to buy a new skateboard. Okay, so that would be our first sentence. I would do that with them, give them a chance to ask questions, repeat things if I needed to. And then if it seemed like most everybody was doing pretty good, we would go on to number two. Number two, those two boys want to buy new skateboards. Okay, boys is plural, so we're going to need a plural verb, which want is a plural verb. So I'd kind of go through the process with them, and then I would let them do a few on their own. So I did two with them, so I'd let them do 2 or 3 on their own. While they were working, I would walk around the room or to the little table. I'd make sure each student was doing their assignment. If they needed help, I would step in and help them. But I'm doing 2 things. I'm provided help as needed. I'm giving them a chance to ask questions, and I'm also, in my mind, kind of doing a little informal assessment when I walk around. So I kind of know, who's getting the skill and who may need a little help. And from there, we would go over it aloud, let the students correct any mistakes they make, and it's just a good practice. So we've moved from guided practice to independent practice to a little bit more guided practice as well. From there, I would give them an assignment. It may be one to work on their own in the classroom or take home. It could be pencil and paper. It could be an assignment from Google Classroom or some other kind of, something from their Chromebooks. And that may possibly be for a grade. I also like to do a review where I turn it into a game, so it's something fun for the students, but they're having fun and they're learning at the same time. But after we have done this a couple times, it seems like they're getting it. Then I'm going to do an assessment, some type of test. Maybe pencil and paper, maybe on the computer, and it may just be my observation. But I want the students, my goal is for the students to be able to complete an assignment using the skills that I've taught them and that they make at least a 70% or more accuracy. That is my goal. If they do below that, then I try to reteach and reassess and see if maybe they do a little bit better. But that is pretty much what I do with all my subjects, and I like to do hands-on when possible. In situations like this, use more just school work, but I do like to utilize the computer, the Chromebooks, smartboard, and that type of thing to go along with what I'm teaching them. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.